Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Chee-Tash. My name is Chris, and today we're going to be going over 1984, Chapter 2, Part 8. Winston and Julia finally meet up with O'Brien. What an exciting chapter, a culmination in just a lot of suspense and who O'Brien really is. And we're in this Part 8, we're not even going to really figure out that much about O'Brien. Like, I still have a bunch of questions, but at least we finally get an answer as to is O'Brien a part of the revolution, the counterparty, the Brotherhood, or do we? Let's dive right into it. There we go. Come on. There we go. I was having some issues there, but at last, oh my gosh, they make it to, and that should say O'Brien's house. I'm sorry, Winston's house. They make it to O'Brien's house, and right off the get-go, it really seems like O'Brien lives in this, and I compare it to like a Bruce Wayne estate. Think Batman. Think Christian Bale, Christopher Nolan Batman. Huge house. He's got the servant, the butler. They walk in. They're walking on blue carpet. O'Brien's in this huge room. Super clean, white walls. And you really see the juxtaposition between where O'Brien lives and where Winston lives, both his place in the Victory Mansion and above Sherrington Shop. Bugs, it smells, you're living on top of people, small. And there is a reason for this difference between O'Brien and Winston's house. I mean, O'Brien, again, he is a part of the inner party. He is steps closer to Big Brother compared to where Winston is at. So he has access to seemingly a lot of different things. And we're going to find out one of these things coming up here. But Winston's super nervous because it's rare to be in the presence of the inner party. It's super rare to even just go over to your coworkers' houses or like people you know. You don't have friends in Oceania. Remember that. You have comrades. You don't go when, yeah, he said Syme was his friend or like Mr. Parsons was his friend, but he's not going over there to hang out. Like, yeah, maybe because he has to do it to be in the good graces of the party. He'll go on community hikes, chess club stuff, whatever. But now you're talking about the inner party. They don't really commingle, just like party members and the proles don't really commingle. So Winston is super nervous. He shows up. He meets Julia there. They actually take two different routes to get there just in case. And I think this was upon O'Brien's suggestion. O'Brien's taking things very carefully. And let's move ahead. Even Winston now is starting to question everything. He does this because when they walk into the house, the servant shows them in. O'Brien is sitting down at a huge table. He's notating stuff in a speakwrite. And then he finally looks up. He goes over to them, and they start talking. Before they start actually discussing anything, O'Brien passes a telescreen, and he stops, turns aside, and presses a switch on the wall. All of a sudden, there's this interesting noise. People get a little surprised at the noise. Julia gets a little shocked at the noise. She wasn't expecting it. And the telescreen shuts off. And Winston is shocked by this. You can turn it off, he said. Yes, said O'Brien. We can turn it off. We have that privilege. Crazy. they can just shut that telescreen off. Now, granted, Winston at Sherrington's shop, he doesn't even have a telescreen there, but the power to shut it off. What other kind of powers do these inner party members have? Crazy. And Winston is still shocked by this. And O'Brien basically just says, hey, what are we all doing here? Shall I say it or shall you say it? And Winston, double checks, hey, is that telescreen really off? And O'Brien's like, I assure you, it's off. Winston here lets it pour all out. He lets it pour out. He pours it all out. Everything. He reveals to O'Brien that they believe, him and Julia, that there is a secret underground conspiracy that is working to overthrow the party. Him and Julia hate the party. And that's what they are there to do. They are there to be a part of this grand conspiracy to overthrow the party. Winston says, if you want us to incriminate ourselves in any other way, we are ready. We are also adulterers. I tell you this because we want to put ourselves at your mercy. And it's crazy that Winston just has the confidence to say all this. Because he doesn't really know. He doesn't really know that O'Brien is a part of the Brotherhood. Remember, this is all stems from that one glance, that one look that they give each other back in chapter 1. And now Winston just jumps off the cliff with this. He's over the edge, and there's no coming back. But O'Brien is a part of the party. And initially he says, oh, Martin is one of us. Bring some drinks over here, Martin. They sit down, they toast a glass. And Winston starts to kind of calm down. Okay, everything's good. O'Brien is with us. We are with O'Brien. They toast to their leader, Goldstein. If that is any indication that the Brotherhood exists, O'Brien is on their side. He can finally rest at ease a little bit. Although nobody really knows where Goldstein is. That's the thing. So O'Brien is next going to talk a little bit. He's going to talk about the Brotherhood. He's going to ask them some questions. First of all, he says that the telescreen cannot be off for too long. They only have a limited amount of time. Before the telescreen comes on, you will both leave. Julia's going to leave first, and then Winston's going to leave shortly after. O'Brien continues to ask them certain questions. He wants to know how committed they are. And in every single one of these questions, O'Brien asks the question to Winston. He figures that, hey, he's speaking for both himself and Julia. But he can't speak for Julia on everything. We're going to see that in a moment. So a bunch of these prerequisites. What are you prepared to do? Are you prepared to give your lives? Yes. Are you prepared to commit murder? Yes. To commit acts of sabotage? Yes. To betray your country to foreign powers? Yes. Cheat, forge, blackmail, corrupt the minds of children, prostitution, disseminate venereal disease, throw sulfuric acid in a child's face. This is crazy stuff. But again, they are trying to spark a revolution here. Lose your identity, live the rest of your life as a waiter or a dock worker. Are you prepared to commit suicide? Yes. Are you prepared to separate and never see each other again? This is where Julia speaks up for herself, and she says no. And then we see Winston kind of taking his time with the answer. A long time passed before he answered this. For a moment, he seemed deprived of the power of speech. So it's almost like he doesn't want to go against Julia here, but deep down inside him, he kind of is thinking about it. But also deep down inside of him, he knows the right answer. He ends up saying no as well. And I think he's afraid of doing it because he's afraid that it's going to jeopardize his position as being a part of the Brotherhood. And in the end, it's not. It's actually a very good thing that they were honest. O'Brien acknowledges this. He said, "You did well to tell me. It is necessary for us to know everything, but you have to understand, if you survive the many, many things that you could get thrown into here, you may have to become a different person. You may have to change your identity, change the shape of your hands, your looks. We may have to amputate a limb." So crazy lengths that they have to go to. Crazy lengths. And will Winston and Julia end up still being able to see each other? Maybe not as Winston and Julia from the sounds of it, if things go the way that O'Brien was talking about. Next thing you know, Winston brings up the book. Remember the book that Winston mentions back in chapter 1, the thought of it existing is not really known for sure. But the book is the Book of Goldstein. And what it does is it's a way to learn about the true nature of their society, of Oceania, of the party. But the book also gives out a strategy by which they will destroy this nature, destroy this society. So what O'Brien is going to do is O'Brien's going to send Winston a copy of the book. What is going to happen is Winston always carries a briefcase with him to work. So one day he's going to forget his briefcase, and a man on the street is going to hand him another one. Winston is then supposed to read the book and then return it in 14 days. But the book itself is just the idea. And this is what I find interesting here is the existence of the book is known, and the party actually does seek out and destroy copies of the book, but O'Brien mentions how the book is indestructible. So to me, the idea of this revolution, yes, it's recorded in the book, but the idea is bigger than the book itself. And he says that even if the book was like totally destroyed, all the copies were destroyed, they could still reproduce it word for word. Because I was going to use the word indoctrinate. I'll refrain from using that word, but I'll say that they are very committed to the word of Goldstein, that they have it memorized because they believe it so much. And then Winston or O'Brien mentions that, hey, there is this thing called the Brotherhood. And I'm sure Winston was relieved to find that out. It does exist, but how many people are in it? Who's in it? You can't really know. And everything that is a part of the Brotherhood is on a need-to-know basis. You're never going to have all the contacts. You're never going to know the true numbers that are in the Brotherhood, and that's for the Brotherhood's safety. So if you get caught, you can never give up any information on the Brotherhood because you're never going to know anything. You're never going to know all the people in the Brotherhood. Yeah, sure, you'll know like a couple, but the Brotherhood will continue on even if you're caught. This kind of reminds me of like a disappearing message. Like once you read it, it like disappears or something like that. I forget if there was an app that does that. Dust. I think once you read the message, it disappears. Or maybe it's just encrypted messaging, kind of like Signal or Telegram. So Winston is going to have some contacts of the Brotherhood, but they're going to rotate. They're going to recycle from time to time. And then possibly their identities might change. I think O'Brien mentions that how, well, he's mentioned it before, how your identity can change based on what they need you to do, if they got to protect you or whatnot, put you into hiding. But he's going to have some contacts. They're going to change and recycle. Orders are going to come straight from O'Brien. And again, even if you get caught, you wouldn't be able to confess to very much because everything's on a need to know. They're not going to give you all the information on the Brotherhood. And it's impossible for members to be aware of more than a few others. Again, for the safety of perpetuating the idea of the Brotherhood, the idea of the revolution. And again, the Brotherhood is not an organization, but it's an idea. Or an organization can get squashed, but the idea can live on from there. So what is the Brotherhood going to supply? What's it going to do for you? Well, here's what it's not going to do for you. This is not a friendship. This is not a camaraderie. They are not going to offer any encouragement or any help. And this is the crazy thing. O'Brien tells Winston, you better get used to living without results and hope because nothing here is guaranteed. If you get caught, you're going to die. And we might not even see the party get overthrown. We might not even see the results of all the work that we do. But if you stick to the plan, that change might happen for your family down the line. And there's an interesting quote that he uses. Let me see if I can find it because it's a very powerful quote. Decanter. Okay, here. There's no possibility that any perceptible change will happen within our own lifetime. We are the dead. Only our true life is in the future. Our only true life is in the future. We shall take part in it as hands full of dust and splinters of bone, but how far away that future may be, there is no knowing. So nothing's guaranteed. They are taking a huge risk joining the Brotherhood. Huge risk. But I think Winston is ready for this. Winston is ready for this. And it's interesting that he brought Julia along. I wouldn't expect Julia to be along with this, but it seems like she is. She didn't protest to any of those questions that O'Brien asked of him, besides the one, are you willing to separate? So it sounds like they're all in. Sounds like they're all in. Next thing you know, Julia and Winston leave. They make a toast to the past. O'Brien mentions how the past is the most important. And he asks, like, oh, should we do it to the future, the present? They definitely ask about the future, but he says, no, the past. Oh, it's right here. What shall it be this time? To the confusion of the thought police, to the death of Big Brother, to humanity, to the future? Winston says, to the past. To the past, when times were better. And then before Julia leaves, she takes a small white tablet on her tongue. And I think that's supposed to like diffuse the alcohol because they toast to wine. And I think only inner party members are allowed to have wine. So this white tablet is supposed to get rid of the taste, get rid of the smell of alcohol on their breath. So if any thought police stop her on the way home, they don't smell alcohol, and then all of a sudden they're not asking questions. Winston leaves later. But before he leaves, he mentioned something from a dream he had about meeting O'Brien in the place where there is no darkness, because O'Brien mentions to Winston that they're going to meet again once more. We shall meet again if we do meet again. So it's not even guaranteed. And Winston chimes in, oh, will this be in the place where there is no darkness? Sorry, he doesn't ask the question. He just states it. Oh, we're going to meet in the place there is no darkness. Remember, he had a dream that O'Brien told this to him. And O'Brien just kind of nods without appearance of surprise, like he knew that he would say this. So this is kind of interesting. How does O'Brien... It almost seems like O'Brien knows about the place of darkness. Does he know about Winston's dream? Yeah, I don't know there. But O'Brien, he definitely is not surprised. No appearance of surprise. It's like he totally gets what Winston's talking about. Totally. And then he offers Winston the chance to ask any question. And I find it interesting that he may never see Winston again. He may not ever talk to him again. He might die. And yet he asks O'Brien about the old St. Clement's rhyme from Sherrington. If you guys remember, oranges and lemons say the bells of St. Clement's. And he asks him, did you ever happen to hear an old rhyme that begins like this? And O'Brien nods and finishes the entire stanza. Oranges and lemons say the bells of St. Clement's. You owe me 3 farthings, say the bells of St. Martin's. When will you pay me, say the bells of Old Bailey. When I grow rich, say the bells of Shoreditch. And Winston gets shocked by this, like, oh my gosh, you knew the last line. If you guys remember, they weren't, when him and Sherrington were talking, they couldn't remember like the rest of the stanza. And O'Brien just says, oh yeah, I knew the last line. And it's interesting here, he doesn't say like, oh yeah, I know the last line. He says, I knew the last line in the past tense. Right. So how old is O'Brien? And like, by using the past tense here, does he mean that he knew it from when he was a kid or something like that, or from a previous life, a previous identity maybe? Maybe he was a prole before, now he's an inter-party member? I don't know. And then they shake. His powerful grip crushed the bones of Winston's palm. Winston leaves. He takes one of those tablets too. O'Brien quickly returns to work, and that ends the meeting. The initiation, the orientation of Winston and Julia, seemingly complete. And that's where we complete part 8. What an interesting series of events. It almost seems surreal that it's happening. I still don't really believe in this O'Brien guy. Like, Winston just spills his guts without ever really knowing him. And I mean, I don't know. I don't think O'Brien's playing them here. It sounds like, yes, there is the Brotherhood. And I'll just tell you guys, Winston does end up getting the book in this next part. Because we're going to do part 9 next. But part 9's a long one, and we're going to have to split this up maybe into like 4 chunks. 3 or 4 chunks, something like that. So, yeah, next time we're going to talk about the book, because Winston starts reading the book. The Book of Goldstein. So here are the discussion questions. Let me know what you guys think and your thoughts on them. I will post them on the blog. Link to the blog will be in the description. And guys, thank you very much for listening. My name is Chris. This has been Chee-Tash. Take care.